Alright, how's it going, everybody? How you doing? Sorry about that. So it's been a couple days. I'm sorry about that. I've been running around a lot today, in the last couple days, actually. Getting a lot of stuff done. And so I haven't been able to stream, and I feel bad about that. So I want to hop back into, like, some Umineko. Um, God, that music. Last we left off, oh shit, what did happen? We kind of went into the next arc of our story here. It's been kind of focusing on a romance between George and Shannon, and or Sayo, whatever you want to call her. And it's been very kind of cute. Just give us a moment. By the time the black tea was laid out on the table and its elegant scent filled the room, the atmosphere had completely returned to its formal peaceful mood, and everyone praised George's knowledge. Shannon wanted to thank him for saving her, but it didn't look like she would get the chance. So she decided to at least thank him inside her heart, praying to God that George would hear it as she pushed the serving cart away. Yeah, so it's been kind of interesting. We've been kind of seeing the last arc. We were kind of seeing the events um, Battler Coon's perspective. So now we're kind of getting some storytelling of what happened on the island before we ever arrived. And that's what kind of we've been seeing, is that, these people had their own shit going on. And we get to see that side of things. George Nissan always lends a helping times at like that, by changing the topic or something. Shannon and Jessica were in the rose garden. Jessica still hadn't returned to the parlor after getting to a fight with her mother and was nonchalantly killing time here. When I think back on it, I get the feeling this wasn't the first time he helped me like that. Whenever I made a careless mistake and George was around, I'm pretty sure he'd always naturally smooth things over and restore harmony. Maybe it wasn't something as direct as picking up a fork that had been dropped, but that was his way of caring. Even servants have their pride. They want to fix their own mistakes by themselves. And if a guest lends them a hand, they'll lose face. He's really good at reading between the lines when stuff like that happens. Well, I guess it's kind of like an art to him. The guy's more of a show-off than he looks. That's not true. I think he's a real wonderful person. Shannon, you haven't fallen in love with George Nissan, have you? For once, Shannon had disagreed with Jessica in a slight, forceful tone, which immediately caught Jessica's attention. No, that's not it, I think. Come to think of it, I hardly heard any stories about George Nissan in love. I think I remember hearing him say that family-oriented girls were his type, didn't I? Sweet, that fits you perfectly, Shannon. It does? How could I? I'm not suitable for such a thing. Not suitable? Like hell you aren't! You've known him so long, you're practically a childhood friend. They say that when you start from a natural relationship where you don't think of each other as a member of the opposite sex, things start to move pretty fast once you finally start thinking about it. There's no doubt. Jessica loved teen magazines with this kind of story, and she was always getting excited talking about that kind of thing with her friends. She was very quick to pick up about love stories like this, so it wasn't the first time she had been exposed to this kind of story. But this certainly wasn't the first time, certainly was the first time she started thinking of George as a member of the opposite sex. She was furniture, while George was an honored guest and member of the Yoroshiya family. Until now, she assumed that even imagining any deeper relationship with him would be impermissible. So she hadn't thought of it. Since it was someone else's problem, Jessica poked fun at it, seemed to enjoy herself. It was all Shannon could do to hide her blushing cheeks. If George were to appear at a time like that, she had no chance of keeping her cool. They saw George coming out of the entrance hall of the mansion. It looked like he'd seen them as well. He headed over, waving his hand. Shannon had to frantically try and regain her ordinary composure before George reached them. Grandfather finally came down. Now they're having an adult conversation, so she chased me out. Escaping then was the right choice. It'd be better to kiss the angel of death than look at Grandfather's face. You shouldn't speak that way. But I think Grandfather might think of us as angels of death. After all, we came here to talk about borrowing money for business reasons. That's right. This wasn't the customary annual October family conference. Ava's family had visited to apply for a business loan from the head family. Kenzo had vast resources, and he lent those out to his children. Of course, they didn't borrow money because they were living in poverty. How would they expand their business with the vast sums they wanted to borrow? How much interest would be attached, and how long would they have to repay it? This wasn't the sort of loan designed for the poor. It was a loan for those who were on the offensive. Kenzo strictly judged whether it would be worth lending out his fortune, and afterwards he strictly oversaw its use. Sorokinjima would sometimes play host to his spectacle, where relatives visited and described their businesses to Kenzo. To the parents, these meetings burdened them with the strain of having to move a vast amount of money. But to Jessica, who lived on this isolated island called Rokinjima, it was a precious opportunity to meet up with her cousins. So being able to talk with the occasional guest such as George like this, immediately cured the bad mood she had gotten from the fight with her mother. My family's totally stingy too. They probably got money to spare, so why not lend it out graciously? Dad and grandfather would probably get pig-headed and act all important. It's natural to be prudent when lending money. Of course, my father will use what he borrows to expand his business, and he came with a plan that promises a solid probability of repayment. Everything else is left up to presentation. But I really wish I could watch from the corner and learn. Mother chased me out. I'm a little let down. It seems the master still tends to scout Kraus-sama and Ava-sama as if they were kids. I'm sure she didn't want to let her son see that. As Shannon hung her head, she thought back at the scene familiar to those who worked in the mansion. Even Kraus, who acted hotly towards his siblings, would still get treated like a child by Kenzo. Shannon herself often see Kenzo slap Kraus and tell him to sit up straight. It's probably very embarrassing because, coerced? No. Coerced? Coerced? No. That still feels weird. It's not coerced, is it? Maybe. This fit. Coerced like that as a stage. Taking care to avoid being pleasant at times like that was one of the important responsibilities held by the servants working there. However, the fact that Shannon had ended up witnessing such a scene meant that she messed up at least once in the past. Yes, I imagine so. Maybe figuring that out and staying away is part of a child's duty. Ah! That aside, the flowers in this garden are truly splendid this year. George stretched as he said that, and he smoothly changed the subject away from one that was a little gloomy. This time Shannon noticed it too. This person. George could sensitively figure out the situation and always change the subject to something harmonious out of kindness. It was so smooth that Shannon hadn't noticed it until today. Today, Shannon really had to admire the way George did that. Of the boys close to Shannon's age that she had known, nearly all of his classmates during her period of mandatory education. But they had all been young, and none of them possessed the composure George had. Mere moments ago, he had been just another guest, but right now, she couldn't help but think of him as something more. However, such things were mere distractions from her work as a servant. Shannon tried to chase them away with a small shake of her head. What's up? No, it's nothing. Shall I make some tea? I will prepare more of that Earl Grey. So you remember the name of that tea? I'm glad. Thank you for your concern back then. Shannon was finally put gratitude into words. If you wrote it out, wouldn't be very long. But Shannon had needed a little spark of courage to say it out loud. But George played dumb. What do you mean? I don't remember doing anything I should be thanked for. He seemed to be playing the gentleman in his own way, letting her know he wasn't doing it out of a desire for gratitude. George's response seemed to be more or less exactly what Jessica had predicted. She couldn't help but burst out laughing. See? Isn't it a bit of a show-off at times like this? No, that's not... Jessica poked fun at Shannon as the latter remained silent, red-faced. George didn't know the details, but he naturally joined in, laughing in the same way. The three of them lazily walked around the garden, catching up on recent events. George, as the oldest cousin, talked about his life experiences. Jessica talked about the recent life in Rokinjima, and Shannon talked about her recent work. They kept going on about these trivial things. Even when Shannon heard the others talk about deeply interesting things, she never felt any particular interest in the actual content of their stories. She was nothing more than a servant, and she had no intention of delving into her masters' lives. She simply wanted them to enjoy their time speaking with her, and would only pretend to listen intently and nod at the right moments. But for some reason, the things George talked about today seemed to catch her interest powerfully. Even things she'd normally ignore felt like they contained a small trace of kindness behind the words. For some reason, she wanted to know more things about George, no matter how trivial. So she stared fixedly at him. She thought as far as his looks went, this Urashimiya George was probably about average and didn't stick out in any particular ways. But he was diligent, serious, and had a deep prudence which allowed him to understand people's hearts and show concern. But she never noticed these things before now. She may not have met him many times, but she'd known his face for many years. Even so, she hadn't noticed once until now. Shannon, embarrassed by her own obliviousness, blushed. George, perhaps thinking Shannon would listen intently to his stories, kept talking happily and at lengths about things he had done and seen. But Jessica didn't miss that slight change in Shannon. So she decided she'd change the conversation to a topic she was sure Shannon was most interested in. Oh yeah? Come to think of it, George Nissan, have you finally gotten a girlfriend or what? Where did that come from? Normally the reaction should have been answer enough. But for some reason, as she was now, Shannon wouldn't be able to understand it unless he said it clearly. George-sama is very nice, so I'm sure he's very popular. Well, quit it, Shannon. Isn't corning him like that actually pretty mean? I wasn't trying to be mean. Well, I'm flattered that you have that mistaken impression of me. But unfortunately, I still haven't had a relationship with any particular girl. After all, my looks are below average, as you can see. And I can't speak tactfully in a way that can entertain a girl. I don't think that's true. And I think a man's charm is decided by something that can't be measured by his appearance. That's why, I think you might be considered a very attractive man, George-sama. Shannon was being uncharacteristically verbose. She hardly ever spoke at such length. George seemed fairly pleased to hear someone applaud his charm like this, and was just a little surprised at the sudden high praise. Jessica, not now sure her guess was spot on, appeared to be barely holding back laughter. Thank you, Shannon-chan. I hope I do bump into a girl who's generous enough to feel attracted to me before too long. Yes, I'm sure you'll run into one. I'm sure there's at least one. No, a lot of girls who will recognize your real charm. She probably wanted to say that there was at least one girl very close to him. Shannon avoided saying that much, drawing a final line as a servant. Really? I guess I'm kind of embarrassed. He had probably never been praised this heavily by a girl before. George's face turned just as bright red as Shannon's. As she watched the two of them, Jessica giggled sadistically. I'm sure you'll eventually bump into a wonderful partner, George Nissan. But I doubt you'll be able to properly escort your partner as you are now, right? It looks like you're diligent, but you've completely abandoned your studies of that. Sorry about that. I'll start studying that bit by bit. And how do you plan to do that all by yourself? Are you gonna watch romance movies or something? Or are you gonna learn from Uncle Hideyoshi? Well, you're acting pretty triumphant. Men are no match for girls when it comes to this sort of thing. Normally when George and Jessica got together, their parents would say George is diligent and admirable, and Jessica is lazy and rude. It was probably unbearable fun for Jessica to have their roles finally reversed. George realized this as well, so he resigned himself to being the one getting teased for once. So, George Nissan, as long as you're okay with it, why not practice a bit with Shannon? It'll be your job to keep Shannon entertained all day long on a date. What do you think? What are you... Milady! When she heard Jessica's audacious plan, Shannon's face turned bright red with a poof, and a donut of smoke started to rise from her head. Aww! That's a very tempting plan, but I wouldn't want to burden Shannon-chan. It'd just end up wasting one of her precious days off, wouldn't it? I'd be butting in on that sacred time that she'd be spending alone with someone else she really likes. I couldn't do something so boorish. I also, don't have a person I have feeling for or anything, so, there's no need to hold back for my sake. Shannon's blood all rushed to her head, and it looked like she didn't know what she was babbling about. Jessica, who knew how Shannon normally was, seemed to be finding this hilarious. She couldn't hide her cackling laughter anymore. Is that true? I can't believe a cute girl like you would be single, Shannon-chan. I am a servant, so of course I don't have any relationship with boys, Which means that if Shannon ever wants a chance at getting herself a wonderful guy, she needs practice with relationships too, right? So you both want the same thing. Sweet! That'll be perfect. Jessica irresponsibly cheered the two of them on. By now, even George was hanging his head and turning red. George, I've been waiting for you for a while now. Didn't you hear me? When Ava appeared in what was an already embarrassing situation, both of them got even more flustered. Jessica watched and laughed loudly. Mother. Sorry, I was so engrossed in our conversation. I didn't notice. Oh, Ava-sama, you have my deepest apologies. It looks like you young kids are really getting fired up together. You're all about that age. Oh, I know how you kids your age can talk about that sort of thing forever. Oh, come on, you're still young yourself, Aunt Ava. Please tell us how you and Uncle Hideyoshi met. Oh my, there's no way I could say that. You all really are so young. So, what is it, Mother? You called because you wanted something, right? Your father and the rest have finished talking. We're going to talk to Grandfather about you, so come on. About me? What could that be? The same thing you were talking about just now. You know what I mean, right? Oh, that. Is there something really you need to talk to Grandfather about, right? What's going on? Wait, George-san, are you getting married? Congratulations. No. Didn't I just say I didn't have a particular woman I was interested in? This isn't something to brag about, is it? Good grief. Ava smiled bitterly, looking a little exasperated. Oh, I get it. George-san, it's one of those, right? An omiai, a marriage meeting. A marriage meeting, you say? Well, yeah. Surely as a man, George wanted to find a partner by himself and bring her home with him. So it seemed he thought it a bit pathetic to meet his partner for the first time in a marriage meeting arranged by his parents. Shouldn't marriage meetings be done at more mature age? I just don't feel like I've become a full-fledged adult. Of course, we have no desire to rush into immediate engagement of marriage, right? There's nothing wrong with deepening your friendship first, and then having her move to our family register after you've gotten older and settled down. Judging by Ava's forceful attitude and George's non-committal one, the others could catch a glimpse of the story behind the marriage meeting. They didn't know who George was supposed to be meeting, but it was surely someone who would profit to Ava's family in a business sense. The very fact that we'd be satisfied with a mere engagement to deepen the relationship between the two families, rather than an immediate marriage, made it feel almost like a political maneuver. You see, marriage isn't something you should get into only once after you started liking someone. You marry first, and then you adjust. If you marry based purely on emotions, you'll end up regretting it. There's certainly nothing wrong with choosing a person with a secure background for your partner in life, and in developing your affection later. And Ava, isn't it that kind of rude to Uncle Hideyoshi? I love that man. I want to always be with him, and to live my life by his side. Ava-sama, that's wonderful. Truly splendid. Thank you. But we built up those feelings while we were husband and wife, you see. And I believe that in the future, we will be much, much closer than we are now. I think that's what's best for a married couple. Still, I don't think you can use that to argue that it's okay to marry someone you don't even like. But it also doesn't mean it's okay to marry anyone as long as you like them. It only takes an instant to get married, but your life as a married couple will last a long, long time after that. So you should search with prudence and avoid making decisions based on momentary emotions, not monetary. I was about to say, isn't she going for monetary? Don't you think a matter like this would be better handled by us, rather than a person lacking in life experience such as yourself? That may be true, but I'm proud of you, my only son. You've grown magnificently, and I'm sure you'll do us proud no matter where you go. And now that Battler-kun has left the family register, you are the father's only male grandchild carrying his blood. We must prudently choose a fitting partner for you. As everyone related to the Yoshimiya family knew, Eva adored George immensely. But that didn't mean she had pampered him. She had been strict with him and raised him into a wonderful boy who wouldn't betray her expectations. That was why she treasured him so. Your partner certainly won't be selected based on your parents' profit and loss. Oh, okay, sure, whatever you say. I'll bring you a suitable and truly wonderful woman. I fucking doubt that. You're essentially saying to your son, fuck your feelings right now. At this moment, your immaturity might make this seem unpleasant to you. But if you're going to take my advice on anything, listen to me now. Have I ever failed to act in your best interest? No, you haven't. That's enough for now. So let's go. We're keeping Father waiting. Hurry to the mansion. Well, sorry, you two. See you later. George bowed to the two of them, and after bowing once more to Shannon, he dashed off to the mansion. I'll be going with him. Forgive me for interrupting such an entertaining conversation, Jessica-san. Shannon-chan. No. Please, don't worry about it. Come on, Shannon. Let's go. Yes. It's okay. I'm sure you'll meet someone wonderful soon, too, Jessica-chan. A wonderful person suitable for you. So, if he's at the same level as me, you mean a guy with shit grades? This kind of pisses me off. And of course you too, Shannon-chan. I'm sure there's a wonderful man suitable for you who will appear. Yes. Thank you very much. As Eva giggled and smiled, she approached Shannon's ear with a hand over her mouth, as though she was trying to tell her a secret. Huh? I'm sure you'll find a perfect match for a lowly servant like yourself. Have you forgotten to be grateful for your education? Know your place. That's not what I meant. George is the eldest grandson carrying father's blood. He is a person who may bear the burden of the Yoshimiya family someday in the future. To answer that expectation, he has studied tirelessly, entered a wonderful college, and is getting wonderful grades. Did you really think you could snatch George away, you uneducated, incompetent, unqualified, uncultured servant? Those malicious words were all poured into Shannon's ear without spilling a drop. To Shannon, it was like cold water was being poured in there. I didn't mean... This was all whispered to Shannon in secret. And with the same smile as before, Jessica, who'd only been seeing Eva's expression, didn't think it was anything other than Eva telling Shannon some embarrassing story about love. When their secret conversation ended, Eva patted Shannon's shoulders as though she was urging her on. Don't worry. I'm sure you'll find a perfect match for a partner, right? Okay, Jessica-chan. See you later. Yeah, see you later. And make sure you tell me about you and Uncle Hideyoshi next time. No way! Eva laughed loudly and headed back to the entrance hall. Behind Jessica, who was cheerfully waving her hand, Shannon reflected very, very deeply on those words of Eva about knowing her place. It's time for me to take a serious look at full of myself I've been acting. I forgot. I'm furniture. Furniture isn't human. So I am a being who must feel gratitude for even being treated like a human. I'm not permitted to wish for anything more. People sometimes develop affection for furniture they're used to using. But that is emotion on the human side, and the furniture has no right to hope for such a thing. It's enough that furniture serves with simple honesty day after day. The feeling I got when talking to George-sama and Jessica-sama. It's the same as a forbidden drug to me. In other words, it may be an emotion I must never experience. Shannon! You've already had your head in the clouds for some time now. Do you not feel well? No. My apologies. Natsui's words were right on the mark. Even Shannon couldn't believe that she hadn't noticed Natsui until she had called. Normally, it was essential that her focus on the cleaning at this time of day, but she spent all of her time sighing and hardly making any progress. Even when there aren't any guests around, you must always be alert. Behavior like this is shameful for the Yorishimiya family's servant. Yes, ma'am. I will take care from now on. The head and my husband will return very soon. Have you finished cleaning the study? Have you finished cleaning the staircase? My apologies. Not yet. Yes, I know. So I had Lennon do it. While you were prodding around cleaning the hallway, she finished cleaning the study and the staircase. That's because I wanted to clean it properly, and so it took some time. Shannon was simple and honest. She would always carry out her tasks seriously and properly without any omissions. So she was always slow with her work. In contrast, Lennon cleverly avoided doing extra work whenever it was possible. So she completed her jobs with a result that looked almost like So she could complete her job with a result that looked almost the same to an outsider, but in a much shorter time. In other words, she was a shrewd employee. Compared to that, it was probably fair to say that Shannon wasn't very shrewd at all, talking back to Natsui when Natsui was in a bad mood. Of course, there was nothing that Natsui couldn't stand more than the servant talking back. Her forehead creased, and she spoke sternly. And yet her slow, admonishing style of speech was even more terrifying, and finally made Shannon realize she had said the wrong thing. Then perhaps you should aim to do a truly thorough cleaning. Shannon, I order you to clean the reception hall right now. It is an important hall where several pictures treasured by the head are displayed, and where honored guests of the Yorishimiya family are welcomed. Clean it thoroughly so not a speck of dust remains, and so that even you are satisfied. Of course, you will finish before the day is out. Until you finish that and report to me, you will not be permitted any food or rest. Understood? Yes, madam. That is good. Servants should endeavor to only use those words. The next time you talk back, your punishment will be even more severe with that in mind. Engrave those words into your heart. Yes, madame. Thank you for your guidance. You are welcome. Behaving as though her headache was troubling her, Natsui headed down the corridor. Where she couldn't see her anymore, Shannon hung her head and sighed. That was what happened when she had her head in the clouds. Even though I am bad at everything I do, I should be able to at least carry out the cleaning as well as an average person can, right? It's because I can't even perform that very well that I'm crying so pathetically. But what's even more shameful is that not only have I been able to perform a single bit of cleaning well, but just now when Natsui was scolding me, I imagined the person appearing and rescuing me. If only George-sama were here. Would he casually step in and save me? Surely he would show up cheerfully, intentionally acting as he didn't know what was going on. Nimbly change the subject and make me forget that I ever been rebuked by Natsui. I keep envisioning him, suddenly appearing from the other side of the door, or the other end of the hallway. I envisioned the kind of person that would be an appropriate partner for him in a marriage meeting. So I envisioned how unfitting I was for him. Eva clearly told me. It had been repeating over and over in my dreams. She's still as clumsy as always, Nissan. The lady has been in a bad mood since this morning. That just now happened because you were talked too much when you should have just hung your head in silence. Cannon-kun. Cannon was suddenly there. His footsteps were always quieter than a cat's, and he never left any trace of his presence. He probably could have stood there forever and she still wouldn't have noticed him. The expression on Cannon-kun's face was one of hatred. He made that expression for Shannon, who didn't know how to do it herself. Madame and Lennon all could fall into hell. That person knows where Madame checks and only cleans those areas. Her cleaning just now was just like that. I know because I saw. She wasn't really cleaning. She's the worst kind of parasite, leeching off your thorough cleaning. You mustn't use such dirty words. Dirty words pollute your clean mind, Cannon-kun. So at least don't use those words in front of me. Okay? Cannon turned away as if sulking. It was a reaction that hid his true feelings, which was very like Cannon, but I was a little happy. He was getting mad for my sake. Cleaning the reception hall will be tough. I'll help. Thank you. But I was the one that Madame ordered, so don't worry. Don't you also have your own work, Cannon-kun? It's a filthy job. My soul was polluted long ago. Cannon then hung his head and bit his lower lip. Just hearing you say you'll help is enough for me. If you don't go back to your own job, then you'll be punished as well. And that would make me sad. Shannon knew Cannon's character well. Sometimes he didn't think enough about himself. If I don't refuse forcefully, he'll help me even if it means neglecting his own job. Cannon was a little sad that his goodwill had been rejected, but he realized that he was doing would only hurt her more in the end and gave a single small sigh. I'm actually going to save it right now because it has been a little bit. We're going to go ahead and pop one there. It's definitely been a couple days since I actually hold up. Let me make sure. Yeah, we're fine. We're fine. I haven't even touched that save in a while. Okay, we're good. Understood. Do your best, Nissan. Yes. And I'm also partly to blame. You aren't at fault at all, Nissan. No, I am. So go now. Cannon-kun's face showed that he had still completely accepted, but without being any more obstinate, he disappeared. Even though Cannon came to give me words of comfort when I was down, even so I was dejected again because it wasn't him. That in itself was a sin. It went far beyond any dream the likes of me could be permitted to see. I don't know my place. Actually, I'll be right back. I gotta... Sorry, need to turn on the AC. It's getting a little hot. Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. Shannon, who had neglected breakfast, already felt her concentration begin to waver. But if she didn't finish cleaning the reception hall, she wouldn't receive Natsui's permission to eat. The cruel Natsui had surely told the kitchen something to that effect. That we respectfully receive Madame's punishment. That's right. My position in this world is furniture. I've been intoxicated by the dream that's beyond me. You almost, this game, it plays with your heart so bad! It's just torture! I finished cleaning the hall and went to the reception hall. The hallway went to the reception hall. Maybe my hunger made my nose more sensitive. I could sense a delicious aroma wafting from the kitchen, even though it was far away, and my empty stomach was encouraged even more. Until I finished up here, I wouldn't get any soup. I just had to resolve myself to doing it. Several portraits were hung in the reception hall. One of those portraits was thought to hold a special meaning amongst the servants. It was the portrait of the witch. That wasn't its true name, but everyone in the mansion called it that. The name of the woman with elegant blonde hair drawn as a subject of the portrait was Beatrice. It was whispered that she might be the former mistress of Kinzo, the family head, and also that she was the great witch who had given Kinzo the gold of the legend. The witch Beatrice, master of the night on Rokenjima. She was gracious to those who respected her, and she would surely curse those who made light of her. It was in Shannon's character not to neglect rules and beliefs such as those, so she thought of the portrait as her other master of that person herself, and always treated it carefully, treasuring it. It had become a part of her daily routine to tell the witch only existed inside the portrait the secrets of her heart. She was furniture. Furniture doesn't complain. Cannot complain. She had no right to speak her mind about her difficult days. She had no right to open her mouth and say those words. She at least spoke her mind inside her heart. She spoke her mind inside her heart, using words she couldn't say aloud, and protested to the formless witch. Of course, the witch didn't answer. She didn't console, and she didn't laugh it off. Shannon could only interpret that silence as she liked, as though the witch was responding agreeably. Beatrice-sama, please listen to the story of my worthless self. As Shannon wiped the dust from the witch's portrait, she spoke that inside her heart. I certainly am incompetent and uncultured, just as Eva-sama said. I am not a person, so maybe I have no right to love. But in that case, why was I given a heart that can know love? At that back point, Shannon held back her tears for a moment. The sound of the rain, which had started falling along with the chill air in the reception hall, made her feel as though her shabbiness had increased another level. Real furniture doesn't have anything like a heart. So, they don't have to love people, right? So they don't feel pain. If I'm just another piece of furniture, why do I have a heart? If it's going to be this painful and this harsh, I wish I hadn't been given a heart like this. I see. So a heart has been given to furniture. It would seem that even that man is capable of some amusing things every now and then. What? The witch that had never answered or laughed or answered. The witch that never answered or laughed. Answered. And laughed. Was it my imagination? Was I hearing things? No, that's wrong. After all, the next words became a voice, and I could hear them, not with my heart, but with my ears. Humans have continually searched for the elements that make up the world since before the modern era. It is said that in ancient times the Greeks tried to explain the world with 4 elements of wind, fire, water, and earth. And after that, for several millennia, humans added several elements to those 4, trying to explain the world with several interpretations such as the 5 elements, the 6 elements, the 7 elements, the 8 elements, and the 12 elements. But they were never able to describe the one sole truth that exists, the single element. However, a single man appeared by the guidance of a star, and finally explained the single element that makes up the world. Know what it is? Oh, who? Shannon fearfully turned around. Right there, she existed. Not as an illusion, but as a reality. The contrast made it clear that there was no mere daydream. It's love. The witch of the portrait elegantly held a golden pipe to her mouth and giggled. She laughed at the ignorance that caused humankind's thoughts to stray from the most simple answer. The man explained everything in the world with love. That is the single element. The man fully explained how the world was constructed with the smallest possible number. How simple and clear, how splendid, exhilarating, pleasant, and thrilling. The year the man was finally born is called the start of the modern era. Oh, is he talking about Jesus Christ? That would make sense, right? We're talking about someone who's existed, like, single man who appeared by the guidance of a star, finally explained the world, and he's talking about God's love for man. Yeah, that tracks. That tracks. Maybe that's what she's talking about. Shannon lost any words to speak. She thought that when first meeting an unknown guest, her first words should be to ask that person's name. But without saying anything, Shannon knew the person's name, so she refrained. No, surely it would be the greatest disrespect for someone who lived and worked on the island to ask this woman her name. After all, she was the other master of this island, besides Kenzo. Beatrice-sama. Indeed, I am Beatrice. Even after 1,000 years, I see that people will still give me that look of when we first met. The witch giggled at how Hannah's reaction didn't betray her expectations. Shannon realized that she had been met with a being that hadn't been met with, and took a step backwards. That's where the wall and the portraits were, so even as she gazed at the witch's portrait was touching her back. The source of your troubles is love. Love, the single element that makes up this world. In other words, it is everything in this world. When it is lacking, then your world is lacking too. It is no different from scooping water into a canteen with a hole in it. Even as you scoop and scoop, that eternal desert of the heart never fills. It is the original sin that humans were founded upon, and everything is made of. Understand? When Adam and Eve put the fruit of knowledge to the lips, love is what they learned of. Because of that, humans were chased out of the garden and became fully human. Which means that knowing love and suffering is what makes one human. You kind-hearted child, you ought to be praised. Now that you have gained the knowledge, you are no longer furniture. You are now human. I recognize that with all the authority of my name. Is it so hard for a common person to understand? Very well then. Forgive me. It has been a long time since I've spoken with a human. Allow me to apologize for my talkativeness. Without waiting for a reply from Shannon, Beatrice laughed pleasantly for a while. Perhaps this isn't much of a way of an apology, but I would be willing to grant this wish of yours my power if you so desire. Huh? The meaning of those words surprised Shannon even more than the witch's sudden appearance. I am offering to bring you and the one you love together. Normally I demand something of equal value in return. However, I am in a good mood, and you will never fail to pay your respects to me in the past. That is something worth rewarding. Is that true? Normally Shannon would have been shocked and struck dumb by this surprisingly impossible guest. However, almost as though she was already under the witch's spell, Shannon responded, "With my magic, it'd be no trouble at all to arrange for you to be joined with the one you love." "Yes, of course." Shannon almost said that without thinking, but held back with the last bit of common sense. After all, this is a witch. A sinister being. The witch Beatrice is clearly trying to slip into the cracks of my heart and take me prisoner. That sort of temptation, which so many fairy tales picture books warned me about when I was young, is right in front of me now. Fear is also a form of respect. It may be pleasant for me, we'll make no progress this way. I may not differ from that of an image of a detestable witch that you hold in your mind. However, I do bestow my favor upon those who respect me. Aren't humans the same? Well, I doubt any human would bestow a favor upon one such a hostile attitude. My apologies. I didn't mean... Shannon eventually realized how rude she was acting towards this guest, and she finally digested the words that had been spoken to her in a short while ago. You are no longer furniture. Now, you are human. As she reflected upon those words, Shannon felt as though the witch understood all her worries. What was that, just now? About a reward? I say I can arrange for you to be joined with the man who has captured your heart. Think of it as a sign of my gratitude for your diligence in polishing my portrait day after day. Calm yourself. I ask nothing in return. I am generous. However, though I ask for nothing in return, I do have a request. Look, here it comes. Part of Shannon's heart sent her a small warning. This is what all those scary picture books she's read when she was little had warned her about. Do you know the small torii and shrine that had been constructed on the oat very near this island, which you see when you gaze at the cliffs? Shannon immediately remembered it. When you reached Rokunjima by boat, there was a torii and a shrine on the reef that was too small to be called even an inlet. I'm pretty sure Kumasawa told me its history, but I can't remember it well. A traveling shoginja, a kind of holy man, had built it and prayed there or something. Yes, I know about it. But why do you bring it up? I will not explain everything, including the very basics, to the one ignorant of demons. Simply put, it's causing me trouble. The truth is, there is a mirror kept inside that shrine. Oh, okay. So this is kind of some clues of what we were going on before. So how this act started, right? Okay. I will not explain everything, including the very basics, to one ignorant of deep themings. Simply put, it is causing me trouble. The truth is, there's a mirror kept inside that shrine. I want you to break it. It is quite a suspicious request. Shen didn't know the details, but anything stored in the shrine would have had to be something sacred. And she wanted me to break it? Why would a witch ask a human for help instead of doing it herself? There is no need for Shan to speak her thoughts aloud. Beatrice responded to Shannon's reasonable doubt before Shannon could give her answer. The magic power of that mirror opposes my own. I cannot explain it well with human words. For example, let us speak of the difference between utensils. The mirror is a fork, and my power is soup. You cannot drink soup with a fork, correct? If the only resistance of that mirror were gone, I could produce a spoon ideal for drinking soup. After that, I could drink soup as I pleased and even dig my way out of a rocky prison. I could even gouge someone's eye out with it. It's very interesting. Okay, this dialogue is very interesting. Because when we did the intermediate chapter, between chapter 1 and chapter 2 here, this was almost exactly how, what the fuck was her name? I'm gonna fucking butcher this, but, one of the witches, Berkestel? Burkestel, I think her name was, said something similar, of like how she was giving a spoon to the main character, and she almost said it's almost the exact same way. Was that not the phrase? Is she being self-referential to that? I don't know what you're talking about. If my poor education is to blame, I apologize. It comes down to this. If you take action and break that annoying mirror for me, I shall grant you your wish as a reward. I am quite a good mood today. You may even change your wish to receive all the gold I bestowed upon Kenzo if you so desired. I refuse. What? When she heard Shannon's words, Beatrice realized for the first time that her expectations had been betrayed. If you have a reason, tell me. If there has been some misunderstanding, I shall resolve it. I don't really understand the reason, but up until now, this island has been at peace, and nothing bad has happened. So even if I don't break the mirror, that peace that has existed until today should continue into the future. Yes, you're quite right. It's just as you say. If you don't break the mirror, the same unbreakable days that have passed until now will continue into tomorrow, and the next day. Why don't I give you an absolute guarantee? I shall stake my name Beatrice on it. The unbreakable days before this time will continue into tomorrow and the next day, and for eternity, and perpetuity. Shannon felt overwhelmed by an eerie illusion. The mirror probably existed for the purpose of restraining the witch. So if Shannon broke it, the person who stood to gain was supposedly the witch herself. And yet Shannon felt somehow she had to do it for her own sake. It felt like something premise had been switched around. I will do nothing but grant you a chance to bring your feelings to fruition. It's up to you to decide whether you will break it or not. If you break it, I shall grant your wish. If you don't, tomorrows that came before today will continue for all eternity. Your wish will not be granted for all time. Do you understand? Do you see what I mean? The witch was speaking. She was pressing Shannon, saying she must break the mirror if she ever wanted to be reunited with George. It was a declaration that Shannon's feelings would never be brought to fruition unless she broke it. Please, stop it. I don't... Something like that. It's never my goal to cause you pain. Oh well. When love leads to madness, that is when you'll see the true charm of humanity. Enjoy that emotion to your heart's content. However, if you wish to borrow my power, feel free to break that mirror at any time, and then you may yell my name and awaken me. I will certainly keep my promise. This way, you'd have no complaints, right? I won't force you to decide now. Easy, is it not? Was it really such an easy thing to do? No, it certainly wasn't. To Shannon, who was burning with infatuation and worried about worried by love, being tempted constantly and eternally with a way out was truly a cruel trial. I won't set a time limit on that promise, but there is a time limit on the magic that can grant your wish. That limit is not of my making. The one you love will decide it himself. You see my meaning? No, I don't understand. When the one you care for finds a partner to whom he ought to pledge his love, that limit will be reached. I may be a witch, but I am no demon. I possess no magic to tear apart a pair who love each other. The one you love will soon attend a marriage meeting, yes. You may have stronger feelings for that man than anyone in the world. However, that doesn't mean you are the most suitable partner for him, does it? I know with whom he will be having a marriage meeting. That girl is the most suitable for the Orishimiya George in the entire world. She came from a good school, achieved good grades, and possessed both composure and thoughtfulness. She is more beautiful than you, wise than you, more suitable than you. How could an ignorant, incompetent, uncultured girl like you be suitable? You know better than anyone. There are none less suitable than you. Even in imagining that you and Urashimiya George could be joined is sinful and foolish, foolish, foolish! Know your place! Have you forgotten to be grateful for your education? Know your place. George is the eldest grandson carrying father's blood. He is the person who may bear the burden of the Urashimiya family someday in the future. To answer to that expectation, he has studied tirelessly, entered a wonderful college, and is getting wonderful grades. Did you really think you could snatch George away, you uneducated, incompetent, unqualified, uncultured servant? Stop it! Don't bully Shannon. Who the hell are you? At the time, as Shannon held her head, trying to protect her heart from the blade of Beatrice's words, Cannon ran in front of her. Ken didn't care who this woman was. This was an enemy tormenting Shannon, whom he loved and respected as a sister. Nothing else mattered. Cannon-kun, stay back! This person is... It seemed Cannon also realized that the being standing before him was the witch of the portrait, and also that she was something to be feared. I simply wished to give Shannon a chance to claim her reward, but it seems I've said too much and ended up hurting her. I must apologize for that. But I shall leave behind a promise as a reward to you. If you need my power, call to me at any time. I've already told you how. Well then, let's call it a night. Hostile gazes may be pleasant, but they damage your beauty, yes? Disappear! I don't know who you are, but you are threatening Shannon. Don't ever show yourself again. Cannon's words seemed to deeply annoy the witch. It's your language, lowborn. I may be gracious to those who respect me, but I am brutal to those who do not. While she still smiled, the witch's face began to twist itself. Then an oppressive feeling that couldn't be noticed with any of the five senses gradually filled the room. Even though they couldn't understand it, they immediately realized it was something terrifying. When you swim in the ocean, and something large passes by in the water beneath you, you want to escape to land even before you learn what it is. That's exactly what this was like. Please stop, Beatrice-sama! Kanekun is still a child. I apologize for his language. Cannon placed his body between the witch and Shannon. There was tense sweat on his forehead. At that time, the witch certainly held Cannon's fate in the palm of her hands. She didn't even need to lift a finger. She held a grasp on his fate so tight that a single twist of her smile could easily crush it. Cannon understood that as well. So he started sweating. His knees felt weak. However, Beatrice abruptly released the feeling of that tension and laughed. Very well. If you ask, I shall forgive you just this once. Cannon, is it? In deference to her, I shall forgive you tonight and send you off. You ought to thank me. Well then, let us call it a night. In parting, I shall leave you with a small souvenir. Hold out the palm of your left hands, you two. When Beatrice grinned broadly and snapped her fingers, their left hands stretched out in front of them against their will, and their palms opened. It was a strange sensation, as though she only their left hands now belonged to someone else. It felt like their own left hands had become puppets, which were being pulled by strings hanging down from the ceilings. What are you trying to do? Cannon resisted, but couldn't retract his hand of his own free will. Don't struggle. It'll be over soon. When Beatrice held her pipe aloft, a gold-colored sparkling dust came out of the smoke and hovered in the air. The sparkle eventually became several gold butterflies. The beautiful butterflies danced freely throughout the reception hall, forming a fantastical and beautiful world. And two of those butterflies alighted on the palms of Shannon and Cannon's hands. Ouch! There was a sharp pain as if they had been burned. When the two of them tried to examine their palms that held onto their bodies, which they had been there a second ago. That hold on their bodies, which had been there a second ago, had gone without a trace. A mark? What is... There was now a tiny burn on the palm of her hand, and it was shaped like a butterfly. What is this supposed to be? Apparently Cannon had the same mark on his hand. He stared at the witch hatefully. A simple greeting. I have no hidden motive. It is nothing more than a bruise, so it'll heal in just a few days. There's not even need to care for it. I made that mark so that tomorrow you will not forget that I was truly here and that I have made a promise with you. An encounter with me can be quite shocking. Sometimes, when the next morning comes, people try not to think of such an encounter as a dream or an illusion. You ought to consider this slowly and carefully, Shannon. And you should probably take a good rest, look at my mark tomorrow morning, and try considering it again. I shall not coerce you in any way. You should freely decide your future by your own will. Still, to think that one could obtain the object of their desire for such a small price. Surely this would be annoying to know the great artists who write beautifuls about delighted love. Well then, let us meet again when the chance arises. How entertaining it is to have a conversation again after so much time. Goodbye, furniture. Beatrice's body crumbled like smoke and blew away. It was a gold smoke. No, a cloud of gold butterflies. They scattered in all directions inside the reception hall, leaving a golden splash before disappearing into thin air. After that, only the cold silence was left. It was so silent it made the both of them think that they had been daydreaming until just a moment ago. Which is why the witch had left those marks. She had done so to make it impossible for them to think of this as a daydream. As Shannon and Cannon remembered the butterfly bruises on their hands and the pain they felt when they had been made, they kept standing still, stunned. And from that moment on, Shannon was tormented by days of suffering and conflict. God. Just a lot to take in and process. What? What do you mean, separate rooms? So wait, you and George stayed in different rooms on purpose? Yes. Is it really so strange? And we're gonna go ahead and save it again. Just because we are in a new scene now. Jessica's cheeks had been stuffed with a chocolate-coated Shinsoku biscuit that Shannon had brought as a present from Okinawa. And it all came flying out of Shannon when Jessica cried out. Shannon, why did you go on a trip to Okinawa? You were even alone with George Nissan. He said there was a huge aquarium in Okinawa and invited me to go. And I like fish and stuff. No, that's not the point! We're talking about a healthy guy and girl going on an overnight trip, right? And you're saying there wasn't any hugs and kisses? And seriously, what's up with the guy and girl staying in different rooms? As for kisses, no comment. But we did hug. George Nissan's chest was warm. It's not the point! Jeez. Why do couples like this exist? Jeez. I can't take it anymore. From Shannon's point of view, it was an incredibly happy trip for various reasons. But it looked like Jessica found their pace to be pretty irritating. For a while, Jessica chewed her present, complaining about romance and pretending to faint in agony on her bed. Shannon and George had chosen to go to Okinawa because there was a huge aquarium there. They did this because an aquarium had given them the opportunity to start hanging out. Since their relationship had started at an aquarium, having their first overnight trip, but also to be an aquarium, must have felt like a commemorative value. This was a huge commemorative turning point, and your first overnight trip. How could you not make all kinds of progress there? But instead, you both got separate rooms? A couple taking 2 single bedrooms. Jeez, seriously, what is wrong with you? We're both unmarried. George-san say showing restraint is good manners for a couple. Like I said, the whole point of an overnight trip is so that you could overcome that stage, right? You should be well beyond just kissing and hugging by now. My lady, I don't know what you mean by that, but George-sama was a real gentleman with me until the end. That is, I also wonder if those things would happen, but even though we're going out, it's not like we're married or anything. These things you should seem to be expecting should only be done after making a vow before God. And Shannon's face got bright red. She made a circle with both hands, restlessly intertwining separate, making heart marks with them. Apparently, the dramatic progress Jessica had looked forward to hadn't happened. But it seemed to have been a very important experience for Shannon in her own way. In the end, whether Jessica was jealous of Shannon or made fun of her, it didn't change the fact that Shannon had a huge lead on her. I want a boyfriend too! I can't believe you got ahead of me, even though we promised we'd find boyfriends at the same time. You beat me! Ugh! You're a wonderful person, milady, so I'm sure you'll find someone wonderful much quicker than me. Don't try to console me! Shannon, you traitor! Get out! Shut up! Jessica threw several cushions at her, but midway she had an asthma attack and started choking pretty badly. Shannon hurriedly ran over to the nearby side table and started searching around on top of it. A cute basket was placed there, and inside of it was Jessica's bronchodilator. Shannon picked it up and handed it over to Jessica. Jessica's asthma attacks always came suddenly. Because of that, she always needed to carry this medicine around. She breathed in the medicine and after a while managed to overcome her choking as her asthma finally settled down. Shannon thought this was a good chance to leave and tried to exit the room before bowing courteously. As she did, one more small cushion came flying and hit Shannon on the head. She noticed that Jessica was on the verge of crying, half of her face buried in the last and favorite cushion. That face was red and meek. Milady? Shannon, be honest with me. Is my hairdo and stuff weird? What are you saying? I think your hair is very beautiful. Then are my eyes strange? Or maybe my nose? Or is it the way I talk after all? Is it the way is that why I can't get a boyfriend? Of course not. Lady, you are wonderful enough as you are, and I think your charm will keep on increasing more and more as from now on. But I'm the only one who can't find a boyfriend. Sako and Hina managed to get boyfriends, and only I can't. Is it because I don't have any charm after? Well, I mean, it's probably because you live on an island by yourself with your parents, and that would be intimidating to any fucking guy. Imagine being the fucking princess of, like... You're essentially the princess of, like... your own kingdom. But the way they talk about your grandfather having so much fucking money, and then his family never has to worry. It's probably pretty intimidating, to be honest with you. You know, everyone says they bring their boyfriends to the culture festival. And I was so sure to have a boyfriend before them, so I started bragging. There's no way I'll get a boyfriend. I'm the only one. Before she realized that Jessica was shedding huge tears. Jessica didn't really feel like crying. Of course, she felt like supporting Shannon's progress and love as a friend. However, as she cheered Shannon on, her true feelings suddenly got mixed in, and she couldn't help but shed tears. Shannon understood Jessica's innocent and easily injured heart. The rough style of speech of Jessica usually used was all just an attempt to protect that fragile heart. As a daughter and successor of the Hiroshima family, and as a girl isolated on Rokkenjima, the only person she could expose her true feelings to was Shannon. Shannon understood that, so she strongly regretted acting smug, even if it was only a little. Sorry. I'm so weird crying like this. Sorry. You are a wonderful person, milady. There's no way you won't find a wonderful man. Shannon, it's about that time, right? If you don't go quickly, Genji-san and Mom will get mad. I'm just fine, so hurry up. Sorry for crying like this. I'm such a moron. Jessica faced away, acting as though she didn't really want to trouble Shannon, waving her hand as though chasing Shannon away. Shannon took it as a sign that Jessica didn't want to be bothered anymore, bowed her head, and left the room. When Shannon's footsteps disappeared into the distance, Jessica lay down on her bed, still hugging a cushion. Her expression was still a little meek, with tears in her eyes. For the first time in a long time, she had a very, very quiet and honest conversation with her heart. I also want to fall in love. Oh, I thought the witch was going to go visit her. Be like, I can make that happen too. Crack. By the way, I just have one small favor. As Shannon happily watered the flower beds in the garden, she sensed someone's presence. She turned around, thinking it was one of the family had come to visit. She must greet them. But what she saw was that witch. Beatrice-sama. It's been quite some time. How are you? Has your relationship with the one you love progressed since we met? As Beatrice sat on the rose arch, she happily blew on her pipe. Sitting in a place like that would crush the roses. It might have been dangerous if the arch fell over, but this was the witch after all. Showing concern for her safety was... Oh, she's literally sitting on the rose arch. Okay, that's a little weird to picture, but I get it. She's like... Okay. Showing concern for her safety was probably a waste of time. Yes, thanks to you, it's going smoothly. Naturally, the effects of my magic are immediate. Perhaps you feel your meeting was a predetermined fate. However, that is a mistake. Don't even think fate has anything to do with it. I understand that. The witch was calling attention to something. Two things, actually. First, that Shannon's relationship with George was a fate that absolutely impossible under normal circumstances. Second, that the power of the witch was great enough to overturn that fact. Shannon had just gotten wrapped up in those sweet days, and had started believing the illusion of fate revolved around her. But she remembered the witch's words. Originally, her relationship with George had been impossible. No, it might be impossible in the future as well. Sorry, please forgive me. It's just like doctors. You cling to them when you're worried about your health, but after you're healed, you forget to even thank them. I never been thanked as a witch, so I couldn't help but acting a little rudely. Forgive me. The gratitude I feel has never slipped my mind. It's thanks to your power that I was able to achieve happiness, Beatrice-sama. And without that power, the fate that brought me and George-sama together would never have happened. I have never forgotten that. Sorry. It's not like I came here to bully you. Being rude is just part of my personality. Do forgive me. More importantly, I heard! So you went on a trip alone with him. I imagine it must have been quite fun. Yes. It was very... fun. Shannon's face suddenly lit up. The witch laughed lightly as though amused by the speed of that transformation. Already the one you care for more than an object of one-sided love. You are a pair of lovers now. When two people are filled with love, nothing else is needed to establish a complete world. Perhaps you could call that a wonderful, ideal world. Even witches would be jealous. Beatrice laughed pleasantly. That smile made her look as though she blessed the lovers' rendezvous from the bottom of her heart, without a trace of malice. After that day, Beatrice had shown herself before Shannon every once in a while. Even now, Shannon thought of her as an unsettling being. However, she was also indebted to this person for the magic that led her to her current relationship with George. So Shannon tried with all her might not to act surprised or scared. That's right. Beatrice-sama, I bought some sweets as a souvenir from our trip. Would you like to try some too? Oh? A souvenir for a witch. It seemed that even a witch who boasted of living for 1,000 years hadn't imagined she'd receive a souvenir from a sweet lover's trip. When she saw that surprised expression, Shannon thought of this witch as a friend for the first time. Oh, an Eastern cookie made from wheat flour and lard. To wrap that in Western chocolate is it's truly a blending of Japanese and Western styles. The Silk Road of sweets. It's kind of interesting because, like, there is this kind of whole big thing of, like, the conversation of Japanese and Western styles clashing, and yet here is, like, this, like, almost harmony and beautiful creation that is made because the two have been mingled. And almost kind of like Kenzo, like, they talk about Eastern and Western magic, or Eastern and Western philosophy and, like, design and stuff. That has been a common theme that keeps coming up over and over again. It's just interesting, like, some things just keep coming back up. What? What's so funny? Nothing. My apologies. The witch, who surely had a terrifying power, was chomping down on sweets one after the other, making a sound like a squirrel stuffing walnuts into its mouth. After a while, Shannon couldn't conceal her laughter. A good meal. I should serve you some Dolvita from Nero one of these days. Or is it Dolce Vita? It might be Dolce Vita. Dolce Vita? I don't know. I could serve you some Dolce Vita from Nero one of these days. Roses are a symbol of eternal love. I believe a rose dolce would be appropriate for you now. The witch was in a great mood, fully enjoying modern candy. Here, I truly am grateful. I believe you've done more than enough for me already, so I'm returning this. The thing Shannon had softly set on the table was a gold-colored butterfly brooch. There is no need to return it. If you continue holding that, your relationship will remain firm in perpetuity. Maybe it was the power of magic that brought us together, but I think only two of us working together can turn that into something that lasts forever. Love and roses are the same. Too much fertilizer causes the roots to rot. Some flowers cannot be raised without hard work. In that case, do as you wish. You may wear it or keep it in a box. That is my goodwill given to you. Having you return it to me wouldn't please at all. My apologies. That's not what I... This song, when it's at the beach, is so nice. It is the perfect tone of, like, this is a sweet moment. You know, there's, like, no problems. It feels like just quiet, calm, nothing bad could ever happen. No harm has been done. That brooch is already yours. If you treasure that proof of your friendship, it would indeed bring me some comfort. Like, Beatrice, when she was first introduced, was almost like this sadistic witch. At least that's what the game sort of introduced her. Like, she was kind of being a bitch. But in this one, we're kind of seeing this softer side of her. It's almost kind of, like, wholesome. Now, this could all be bullshit, but at the end of the day, it's also kind of, you know... You may hold on to it and gain its benefits, or you may keep it in a box. If you wish, you may even give it to another who is worrying about love. Or you could simply treasure it. Of course, it would pain my heart if you wasted it. According to Beatrice, she had appeared several times in the past to respond to a person's summons, to give them some tool imbued with magical power. However, when most people used that power to resolve their worries, they quickly grew unsettled by it, and forgot their former gratitude and threw away the tools that had been given with disgust. So it's quite rare for me to be thanked for my goodwill. In fact, this might even be the first time. The witch laughed heartily, as it looked like a sad laugh, but it looked like a sad laugh in Shannon's eyes. She herself had been living in the past. No, maybe she was still like that now. Beatrice definitely was a witch, with a strange and terrifying power. Most people probably wouldn't want to stick around her if they could help it. Surely, even those who had relied on that strange power sometimes felt fear rather than gratitude as a result. It must deeply hurt the witch to have that happen over and over. Since at times she started thinking that way, Shannon had tried to stop being frightened of Beatrice. This was surely something that had tormented the witch for over 1,000 years. Maybe she really liked those sweets. Beatrice, who normally spoke abusively, praised the black tea that Shannon served her and looked to be in remarkably high spirits. After doing that for a while, the witch and the servant grew animated in their discussion with the trip with George. See what I mean? Which is the mask? Which one is it? Is she just a sadistic witch who gets off on torturing people? Or is this truly like... She said, it's been 1,000 years of being my lonesome, and a lot of people would, like, fear me. So this could be the first time in her life she's actually enjoying the company of another person. Which has its own tragic, like, feel to what's going on. But again, could all be a ploy. Could all be bullshit. But you almost, like, some of these lines almost make you feel bad. After doing that for a while, the witch and the servant grew animated in their discussion with the trip with George. The things Shannon actually knew about Beatrice was surprisingly few. First off, she was a ghost-like being who appeared in unexpected places at unexpected times. It seemed that not everyone could perceive that she was there. Apparently, everyone has something called a wavelength, and the ability to perceive witches varies greatly amongst different people. Only in Shannon and Canon could interact with her enough to exchange words like this. There were few people who could sense her presence, and most people couldn't even feel that much. From what Beatrice said, Kraus and his wife, were in particular, had zero magical talent, and no matter how much he followed them around, they would never notice her. Once earlier, when Shannon messed up and Natsui got really mad at her, Beatrice had started playing around and hitting Natsu on the head with her pipe. I see. Natsui really doesn't notice a thing. But Shannon, watching Nat, had burst out laughing without thinking and gotten even scolded even more. Then, what about the master? I heard he's been doing research in magic. I'm sure he'd be able to notice you, Beatrice-sama. Kenzo is the same. He also has a pitiful lack of magical talent. It's the blood. He has so little talent that I pity him. As soon as they started talking about Kenzo, it felt like the atmosphere about Beatrice changed. She had spoken about Kraus and the lack of magical talent as though she looked down on them, but she spoke of Kenzo in a different way. Anyone connected to the Urashimiya family could know about Kenzo's legend of the gold. According to that, Kenzo had given the gold after summoning the witch Beatrice. In other words, she must have some kind of relationship with Kenzo. That was because he succeeded despite having not a scrap of talent. He kept studying by himself like mad and managed to become a magician. And that's something really incredible, right? Indeed. The witch who usually looked down on people was uncharacteristically offering her praise. While she lambasted him for saying he had no talent, she praised his efforts. And then the master summoned Beatrice-sama with the power of magic. Indeed. Well, I only answered the summons on a whim. After all, in this period where magic has long been denied, here was a man who also without a scrap of talent, yet so desperate to succeed. I thought I'd drop by and poke some fun at him, and that's when my luck ran out. Her choice of words highlighted how much of a disaster this had been for her. Shannon hesitated over whether it'd be safe to continue this discussion, but Beatrice continued her own, ignoring Shannon. After all, his contract did have a proper format and set of rules. Various procedures were mixed in, but on deference to his enthusiasm, I graciously accepted it. Then I gave him a mountain of gold. And then the master used that gold and succeeded in business, and grew his wealth into what it is today. Indeed, his talent in magic was minimum, but it seemed he had a knack for business and gambling. Perhaps it was due to that bravery and madness that led him to risk everything on unreasonable bets. Madness sometimes acts as magical power. I see. If you look at it that way, perhaps it's not quite fair to say he was completely lacking in magical talent. Shannon felt that she was daydreaming. While everyone in the Urashimiya family knew the story of how Kenzo idolized black magic, summoned a witch, and received the gold, in actuality it was all rambling that no one believed him. And now Shannon was having this story confirmed by the witch herself. She felt a little flustered by this incredible secret that only she knew. Once Kenzo gained his vast fortune, he could realize every dream that could be satisfied by objects obtainable in the human world. And in the end, he searched for the truth of this world. The truth of this world? The single element that makes up the world. Kenzo, who had gained everything he could obtain in the human world, searched for that. The final desire humans seek. The single element. She seemed to remember the witch using that word before. When Beatrice saw Shannon trying to remember what it was, she laughed bitterly, waving her hand and saying there was no need to worry. I underestimated Kenzo just a tad. I truly didn't expect him to display such power. And thanks to that, I am in this state. I've been sewn in place on this island for several decades now, without even a friend to drink tea with. No matter whom I try to talk to, my voice doesn't reach them. No matter where I go, I cannot do anything. Such boring decades. As she laughed in self-derision, she tapped her teacup with her finger. It made the light sound of pottery. Shannon didn't know whether the word self-derision was really an accurate expression to describe the look on the witch's face. Shannon didn't understand everything, but she could more or less figure out the situation. It was probably a topic that she couldn't impress the witch on easily, not unless the witch started talking about it herself. To sum up everything she'd said up until now, Beatrice, who had been summoned by Kinzo's magic, could not leave this island for some reason. And so she had lost her power and her form, living her days in boredom. During that time, her words reached Shannon, who never forgot to show sincere respect for the witch. And Shannon had helped the witch regain her power, if only a little bit. As a result, it was now possible for the witch to drink tea with Shannon like this. Beatrice-sama, what in the world was that mirror you told me to break? Haha, that. Long ago, it seemed various things happened on the island around this area. Because of that, malignant forces gathered here and begun to draw on an evil distortion. It seems traveling Eastern magician or something built a shrine for the repose of souls and sealed them in there. That in itself has nothing to do with me, but unfortunately that magical power rested on a different foundation than mine. It created a strong interference with my magic and was extremely bothersome. Is that how it was? And I just assumed it existed only to seal you, Beatrice-sama. I was not its target, but it was a divine mirror. As a result, my power was sealed away. To use food as an example, might it go something like this? Let's say the Western food I ordered is being made in the kitchen. However, when they set the table, the area for the guest seating is in a Japanese style. See, again, we're seeing this idea of Western and Eastern kind of... oh, this is so weird. Okay. Like, again, we just had a moment before where they talked about how, like, Eastern aesthetic and Western, for the cookies, created this beautiful, like, new dessert that Beatrice really liked. But now she's saying, like, those things should not mix well. However, when they try to set the table, the area for the guest seating is in a Japanese style with Japanese-style dishes. So the kitchen is unable to serve a dish that would be out of place. And no matter how long I wait, my Western food won't arrive. Something like that. So you destroyed the Japanese-style guest seating and returned it to a blank area to a blank state for a time? Thanks to that, the meal I ordered was finally delivered, and my power came back, you could say. However, so far, only the aperitif has arrived. I think that's the appetizer, right? I think that's another way to say it is aperitif. It will be quite some time before the main dish. As I am now, I am even more fragile than the shoe store fairy. What's so amusing? Nothing. I just thought your metaphor was pretty funny. I never would have thought to use a story about food as a metaphor for magic. I thought it a rather skillful comparison, but I certainly didn't expect to be laughed at. I'm a bit offended. A slightly sulky expression rose in the witch's face. It wasn't a strange expression at all to be appearing on the face of some friend as they enjoyed their tea. See, they've kind of gone from this reverence to the master of the thing to, being these friends who are enjoying tea together. Although I may not look it, I was known for doing extremely brutal things in the past. I've grown soft. Now I can even have a foolish discussion while drinking tea with a human. She's probably talking to herself. As Beatrice gazed at the seabirds tracing the horizon, she put her tea to her lips again. The clouds have come out. When the ocean loses its brilliance, it's nothing more than a gray puddle. You think so? I think the ocean is a beautiful deep blue, even when it gets cloudy. Maybe the witch noticed the deep meaning behind Shannon's words. She laughed lightly and set down her empty teacup. That was a conversation from the very beginning of the chapter! Literally, like how they were saying, like her and George were at the beach on a cloudy day, but because they were holding each other, they almost saw it as a deep blue. She laughed lightly and set down her empty cup. It seems those things buried in your eyes aren't black pebbles anymore. How is it? Do you see how it feels for furniture to be reborn as a human? Yes. I never knew the world was this kind. Since the start of her relationship with George, Shannon's face has grown brighter more often. Her smile had made everything go smoothly, and even changed her fortune. Shannon made less mistakes in her work than she had before, and the family members' opinion of her was slowly starting to change. Just the other day, she had been surprised when Kraus, who rarely exchanged words with her, had suddenly started talking to her. You've been wearing a splendid smile more often lately, haven't you? Nothing good. Okay. My poor throat. All this talking. I really need to figure out how to get the voice one. But I don't know. I don't know. Would that be fun? I mean, voice acting is probably much better than I could ever do, so I'm not going to shit on that. But it'd also be like, I wouldn't be talking. I'd only be commenting on what's going on versus, saying all these things. But maybe that's a good thing. Maybe I can give my voice a break and actually make commentary on the fucking game that I'm playing instead of, reading all these lines. It's hard. It's hard to balance the two when you're reading everything. Has something good happened? No, but every day is fun, yes? Wonderful. It goes without saying that coffee is more delicious when poured with a smile. Could I ask that smile once more? Yes, sir. It had become a chance for Shannon to gain confidence in herself. Of course, it didn't go beyond her own heart. It wasn't so big a change that anyone would notice. But she'd begun to change, bit by bit. Shannon understood it clearly. Knowing love was the same as gaining a soul. The same as being reborn from furniture to human. There was absolutely nothing mistaken in Beatrice's words. By knowing love, Shannon had learned what it was to be human. These have been unusual snacks. This was time well spent. It's probably about time for you to return to your work. So let us end our tea party now. After all, I'm sure it seems a certain person doesn't like seeing us drink tea together. Huh? The witch gripped a teaspoon and flipped it with her fingers, sending it up into the air. After that, it was launched by the fingers of some invisible person and flew straight into a nearby bush. The bush shook violently and Cannon came out. It seemed he had been there for some time, watching their tea party. The spoon was gripped in his hand. If he hadn't caught it in the instant, it would have hit him hard in the forehead and caused him to start oozing blood. Do not worry. Our tea party is over now, Cannon. How long were you there? If you had called to us, I would have poured you some tea too. I imagine you didn't want to interrupt a pair of women talking, right? Cannon kept silent, but there seemed to be a slightly hostile look in his eyes. On the outside, he acted with respect, but unlike Shannon, Cannon did not trust the witch. When Beatrice hit the table with her pipe, the tea set turned into gold butterflies, which flew upwards all at once. Then they scattered in every direction, and the cleanup was already done. It was fun, Shannon. Let us meet again if the chance arises. My magical power is still quite lacking. It's tiring even to show myself. If you're that tired, never appear again. Cannon had said it in a small voice, but the witch seemed to have heard it perfectly. She giggled and did not reply. Shannon, tell me more about George at our next tea party. There are no snacks sweeter than a person's love life. See you again. Beatrice's body had become gold butterflies which scattered in all directions and disappeared. It was a fantastical and beautiful scene, like a blizzard of gold leaf. For a while, Shannon quietly watched the witch's exit. Shannon approached her from behind and spoke with an expression that was drastically different from hers. Nisan, didn't I tell you to stay away from her? Beatrice Sama isn't that bad of a person. Yes, she might be a little shady, but the fact that we can only see her is suspicious enough. That thing isn't human. Who knows what she might be planning? Cannon, I think that's a little rude. There was a touch of sternness in Shannon's voice, which was unusual for her. To Cannon, who knew her well, she must have sounded extremely stern. Cannon, looking excessively surprised considering Shannon's tone, fell silent. It's true that Beatrice is different from humans. She has a terrifying power, so I think it's right for us to fear and respect her. Still, I think it's incredibly rude to despise her just because she isn't human. I understand what you're trying to say, Nisan. You've changed ever since she gave you that brooch. It's like you're her prisoner. She bought you and George Sama together, and now you're indebted to her. Don't say things like that. That thing isn't human. We don't know what she's thinking. So you mustn't trust her. And we aren't humans either, Nisan. Cannon's word grew more serious. Those words probably gouged at Shannon's heart. She bit her lower lip and hung her head. We are furniture. Even if we receive names and are treated as humans, that doesn't change the matter of our birth. You are no longer furniture. Those are words Beatrice had given her, which had made her happy as floated through Shannon's mind. I am not furniture. No, you are furniture. We are less than human. Nisan, you are pretending to have forgotten. Pretending to be human. You know that as well as I do. I am not furniture. I'm human. No, you aren't. We have never possessed what it takes to be loved or be loved. Cannon's criticism seemed to have shifted away from Shannon's meeting with the witch. Shannon picked up on that quickly. I heard from a lady. Seriously, what were you thinking? I can't believe you would go on a trip with George-sama. You've forgotten your place as furniture. You've just been tempted by that witch, mistakenly believing that you've become human. Listen, Cannon-kun. It's true that we're furniture. Lesser beings, inferior to humans. But if it were possible to make up for what we lack, wouldn't that be the same as becoming human? Such a thing could never happen. No, it could. If we could do that, we won't be furniture anymore. We can become human. Ridiculous. As if you could ever do such a thing. Cannon spat those words out, but did so weakly and turned away. He was probably giving up. After all the suffering he had undergone during those days he lived as furniture, his heart was firmly sealed. You could do it too, Cannon-kun. You could become a normal human. Stop it. That's the witch talking. Yes, Beatrice-sama taught me. By obtaining the single element of this world, you become human. Or rather, nobody's human if they don't have that. That's why people spend their entire lives trying to gain that single element. I don't understand what you're saying, Nisan. I don't want to listen to ranting. Then I'll teach it in a way even you can understand. Look, see what I'm pointing at? Shannon quietly pointed out at sea, towards the horizon. Cannon didn't understand what she meant, and could do anything except look between the horizon and Shannon's expression, which seemed to be posing a riddle. The sea. Cannon-kun, what color does the sea look to you? It's an extremely simple question. For a while, Cannon tried to guess at the meaning behind it, but he couldn't think of anything, so he answered obediently. It's a hazy, dark gray color. So what? Objectively speaking, the sea, laid out beneath the cloudy sky, would probably be described best by Cannon's words. But as Shannon closed her eyes and smiled, she shook her head slightly. It looks deep blue to me. Is that what you mean? Like how Japanese people use the word blue to refer to a green traffic light? No. The sea is a deep blue. If I understand this, and you don't, then that is the difference between us. Give me 1 second, just checking some stuff. Ah, what the fuck? Oh, okay, that was just that. Okay, cool. Sorry. If I understand, and you don't, that is the difference between us. Cannon bit his lower lip and was silent for a while. I don't understand, Cannon-kun. Would you stick out your hand? As Cannon was taken aback, unable to understand what she was saying, she took his arm and opened the palm of his hand. Shannon softly set something in there. It was the magic brooch she had received from Beatrice. A magic charm shaped like a gold butterfly that could bring love to fruition. This is Hers? No, this is mine. So think of it as me and treat it with respect, okay? After being spoken to like that, he couldn't just throw it away. Ken didn't know what he should do, and he stood there confused for a while, the brooch still in the palm of his hand. Shannon put the palm of her hand on top of Cannon's, and the brooch was warmed by both of their hands. The charm holds true magical power. I'm sure it'll teach you how an important emotion, Cannon-kun. There is nothing to be learned from that person's magic. No, there is something. So wear it. If that's embarrassing, I hear it's okay to just hide it in your pocket. Ridiculous. As if I'd let the magic of that person lead me astray. And as he said that, Ken couldn't be cold-hearted towards something Shannon was urging him to take. In the end, Cannon took it and agreed reluctantly, saying that he would prove that he wouldn't surrender to the witch's power. Shannon smiled and nodded back. I'm sure you'll be able to learn something important from it, and I'm sure you can become human. And when you do, I'm sure this ocean will look like a beautiful blue to you as well, Cannon-kun. Gray is gray, no matter how many times you look. That's wrong, Cannon-kun. It only looks that way because you have no... whatever that is. Huh? Because of the howling wind, he hadn't been able to catch the main point she had just said. So Shannon said it once more. The single element of the world. She spoke once more of the world where it existed, where the sea was deep blue. I'm sure you'll be able to see a deep blue ocean too. After all, without love, it cannot be seen. And hence, that's where the title of the stream came from. Without love, it can't be seen. It's a whole kind of this idea with magic, is that it seems to be this whole big thing of, like, love being an essential part of, like, people being able to either see magic or feel magic or see, or kind of that magic is real if you have love. Who is that? It is Cannon, Master. It was rare for Kinzo to leave his study. Oh yeah, that's weird. What is he doing out here? What the fuck are you doing, man? However, the fact that he didn't mean his noble research had been suspended. He may have left the study because of a change of mood, but that didn't mean the thoughts filling his head were any different from those he had while inside the study. Cannon knew that no matter at the time, speaking to Kinzo when he didn't want to be spoken to would always disturb his research. It's cloudy out there. Will it get worse? Yes. According to the weather report, it could rain at any time. Shall I bring an umbrella? It will not come to that. Leave me alone for a while. If my children ask, say you do not know where I am. I am busy on a journey through my own thoughts. Certainly. Then if you would excuse me. Before Cannon finished bowing, Kinzo had already returned to his own world, having forgotten Cannon's presence completely. And once again he began rambling to himself. Amidst those words, the name of that witch popped up many times. Oh, Beatrice, my hand will not reach your smile. What I could do to revive you. What I could do to make you smile at me once more. What is lacking? My research? My materials? My catalyst? Or is it magical power or luck or an oracle? Oh, Beatrice, what can I do to see your face one more time? Oh. As Cannon listened to his master's wailing voice with his back turned, he turned around just once. And as he did, right behind his isolated old master was a shadow of a person who shouldn't have been there. It was the witch. At once thinking the witch must be plotting to do Kinzo some harm, Cannon dashed back to Kinzo and tried to form a shield at his body. But when he saw the expression on the witch's face, that emotion of his vanished. After all, Beatrice's expression was sorrowful. Or maybe pitying? You fool, Kinzo. Can't you see me, even though I am here? Right behind Kinzo, as he repeated the witch's name over and over, desiring to be reunited with her more than anything else, was the witch herself. Yet Kinzo didn't notice anything. When Beatrice tried to rest her hand on his shoulder, he didn't notice. Why does my hand not reach Beatrice's smile? Is it the age of the moon? The cycle of the comets? The alignment of the planets? What is lacking? What is? It's useless, Kenzo. Without love, it cannot be seen. Kanon took the brooch he had received from Shannon out of his pocket. By learning something new, wouldn't he be able to glimpse something he couldn't see now? Without love, it couldn't be seen. He looked at Kinzo's back once more. The witch could no longer be seen there. See, it just seems like a throwaway line, but it seems to be becoming this important aspect of, like, love being this, like, very important role of, like, how the magic works. At least from Beatrice has given that hint. Shannon could have just been like, but no, it kind of seems like, no, there's a real thing there, a real element that, helps the magic. The biggest fall event for the Oroshima family was the family conference in October. But to Jessica, that was another major event that came before that. The school culture festival. Jessica liked school. To her, it was a place where she could let out her stress she built up from the rigid lifestyle she was forced to lead at home. I can imagine that. To a kid, who's always had to be around her strict parents who are trying to mold her into a perfect head of the family. Getting away from all that would probably be her biggest relief. Yeah, that kind of makes sense. For today's culture festival, she formed a group with her friends, and it announced that they would perform some light music on a temporary stage. She had prepared and practiced this for over and over until today, always anxiously awaiting this day's arrival. But there was one thing that worried her. She looked at the clock. There was still a little time, but she felt uneasy. Would that person really come? After taking a deep breath, her heart jumped when all of her friends suddenly started speaking in shrill voices. No way! Hina's boyfriend's so awesome, isn't he? Rin's boyfriend looks really smart. It's true that guy's a classist beast? My husband's a pretty boy. It may not be like this for all girls, but at least at Jessica's school, the culture festival was basically a boyfriend expedition. Jessica didn't have a boyfriend. She had many friends of the opposite sex, but no special only one. But Jessica was a little famous around the school, and everyone thought it'd be natural for her to have a fitting partner. Furthermore, her pride had led her to pretend that this was true. She somehow managed to keep them fooled until this year. But for various reasons, she hadn't been able to escape this year's culture festival. Jessie? Is your boyfriend here? What? No, it looks like he's not here yet. Maybe he's busy with work? What kind of person is he, Jessie? At least give us a hint. What kind of relationship? Awesome, so he's a working man? Will he come in a suit? Of course he'll be wearing glasses, right? He doesn't actually exist, right? What if you come clean now? We'll let you join us. Let's cry together to this year's cultural festival. No. He exists. I told you, he really exists. Jessica's bitter smile was covered with cold sweat. It was starting to seem doubtful whether she really had deceived her sharp-witted friends. Okay, then how about making a fake boyfriend and taking him with you? A fake? Who? I can't think of anyone who'd do that. Shannon's ridiculous plan surprised Jessica into hysterics. Even so, it was probably more realistic than the crazy method running through her head about getting a boyfriend in a big rush before the culture festival. For example, what about Kanon-kun? Shoes on the other foot now, huh, Jessica? You were poking at Shannon before, now it's her turn, bitch. I'm kidding. Kanon-kun? No way. Anyway, I'm sure Kanon has work the day of the festival, and I don't want to bother him. Of course, I already checked the schedule. Kanon-kun has the day off. Why are you always so clever when it comes to stuff like this? No, wait. It'd be even worse if he's off. I can't pull him away from a precious day off. Where have you heard this one before? For my own vanity? If you don't pull Kanon-kun away, he'll be shut away by himself. So I think it'd be perfect if you could drag him out of his shell. You think so? No, but I feel bad for him. Then I guess you're out of options. How about meekly confessing to everyone that you don't have a boyfriend? True, it might be terribly embarrassing, but you'd only have to endure it for the short and yet long time before graduation. To a pair of lovers, there's no sweeter honey than the face of a single person with an inferiority complex. Shannon! You really aren't worrying for my sake, are you? You're teasing me, right? Jessica wrestled about with Shannon, with her eyes teary, but Shannon was unfazed, laughing with her usual smile. Yes, this to get you back from making fun of me and George some all the time. Did my stream die? Give me a second, I just want to make sure. Oh, no, I seem to be still going. I'm not getting any drop frames or anything. Okay, cool. My chat just was a little weird, that was all. Listening to Shannon's comeback, the likes of which didn't happen even once a year, Jessica hugged her cushion and rolled around on her bed, pretending to faint in agony. She couldn't stand Shannon's smile, which looked so triumphant, but right now she was the only person Jessica could talk with. She could choke her to death with her cushion later. Is it really so bad, milady? It's a culture festival, but it's also a chance for you to have fun with Cannon-kun. No, that may be true, but no. Jessica buried her head in her favorite pillow to hide the fact that her face had grown bright red, and she had grumpily chewed the fingernails of her thumb. It was really a reaction to be appreciated. Shannon and Jessica were about the same age, and of the same sex, and friends. And they were both right in the middle of puberty. They could never talk enough about love. That's why they could talk freely about those topics to each other. So Jessica heard a lot about how Shannon and George's love was progressing. And Shannon heard a lot about what type Jessica liked, and what kind of man she might be interested in. Judging by Jessica's reaction, it'd probably be rude for us to go out to precisely what these things were. However, this story wouldn't get anywhere if we just have Jessica rolling around forever, so let's dive in. Jessica was thinking about Cannon ever since he had shown up. It was extremely rare for a young man to visit Rokenjima, so maybe it was natural for Jessica, a girl in puberty, to develop an interest in Cannon. But if anyone else said it, it would destroy the romantic ideal of a maiden's pure heart and love at first sight. Shannon had been with Cannon a long time at the orphanage, so she'd known him since before they started working. So Jessica had asked persistently about what his hobbies were, what his favorite food was, what type of girl he liked. Even to Shannon, it was clear that Jessica was infatuated with Cannon. Come on, isn't it a good chance to take Cannon-kun out on a date? But Cannon might also have someone he likes, so wouldn't he take it badly if I made him go with me just to show off? People who aren't honest with themselves like you. Or what's the word I learned from George-sama? That's right, I think it was Sundora. Apparently they're all the rage in a decade. They'll be all the rage in a decade or so. Wow, George Nissan sure is incredible managing to foresee future trends like that. Awesome. No, wait. Are you saying I'm living in the wrong decade? I give up! It took several days of wasted efforts, but in the end, Jessica agreed to the plan of having Cannon pretend to be her boyfriend. Yes, milady. Did you call me? Jessica regretted calling out at such a bad time. Cannon's always looked sullen, but he had bad days and some better days. Unfortunately, the reaction was the former. No, all that confidence and effort she built up practicing in front of a mirror all night had been wiped out in about 5 seconds. Jessica turned bright red and hung her head. When she saw that, Cannon sighed. Jessica thought he might have exasperated with her, but her face went pale. I heard from Shannon. It's about having me go with you to the school cultural festival, right, milady? Huh? Nice one, Shannon. I mean... Yeah, that's right. But, do you have any plans that day? I was strictly ordered by Shannon to work specifically for you that day, milady. I have never been to high school, so I don't really understand. But here's a place where girls can be shamed if they don't have a boy with them. And I was given special orders to see that the daughter of the Yodoshimiya family is in no way inferior to the common people. That's right, we have to put her on a pedestal. What? Shannon, I'll beat you to death later. Jessica kept yelling with a strange voice and a broken smile, like a tea kettle filled with boiling water, as Kenan watched as he sighed again. Kenan wasn't an idiot either. He fully understood what Jessica intended by inviting him. But to be honest, playing along with Jessica's love game seemed like it'd be nothing more than an annoyance to him. However, Shannon had asked him over and over. He was deeply indebted to her, so he couldn't refuse. And that brooch was in his pocket. Could this strange turn of events have been brought about by the magic power residing in this brooch? Ridiculous. But he remembered what Shannon had said to him that day. Could Shannon see something he could not? I don't understand Shannon's feelings. We are furniture. As if we could ever become anything more. It's truly an odd exchange between Jessica, who was still rambling on in a strange voice, and Kenan, who sighed deeply. Okay, I'm actually going to stop it here. I think this is a good opportunity, and we can kind of see what happens with their whole back and forth at the school festival next time. I've been kind of going on for 2 hours, and I think this is a good stopping point. We're getting a lot of information. Like, I assume we would just be focusing on Shannon and George here, but now we're starting to see Jessica and Kenan, who they touched upon a little bit that she had feelings for him. But it'd be interesting to see how this relationship's going to go. Especially with the same dynamic of the parents. They both kind of want to set their child up as like the future successor of the family. So the idea that either one would be going for a servant would be kind of, I don't want to say besmirching the Urashimiya name, but I have a feeling the families aren't going to like it. In fact, we kind of saw that in the first chapter too, but, I guess we'll see how this goes. Anyway, thanks very much for watching, everyone. I hope you guys are enjoying this game. I certainly am. I'm having a lot of fun. It's a lot of talking, so I gotta, rest my throat a little bit. And, I don't know. Maybe next time I'll do some iSomnium files. Maybe I'll do more of this. Depending on what I'm in the mood for. It's not like I got anything else going on. But, yeah, thanks very much for your time, and I greatly appreciate it. Peace.